Wonderful. Yay. Big claps, virtual applause. Thank you so much. That's Brian Fitzgerald, or as we call him, Fitzy. A lot of people ask for his information, so please feel free to reach out to myself if you need that information. Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Nicole Stevenson. I am the director of the Society for Professional Women. We are thrilled to have serial entrepreneur and author Sherry Stewart Deutschmann to today's program. As always, please be patient with us throughout the technology use today. SPW would not be possible without the continued support of our members and most of all our sponsors. Please allow me to share my screen at this time and thank all of our sponsors that continue to support our mission, which is to accelerate and expand the influence of women leaders of all professions and generations, strengthen our business community, and support the region's nonprofit organizations. So I am going to share that now. There it is.
Guys, I'm Jen Ryan. So I am Jen from Jen and Bill in the Morning here on Philly's B101.1. And B101 is so happy to be a sponsor of the Society for Professional Women. And we want to welcome you to today's event, which could not happen without our sponsors. So I'd like to take a minute right now to thank them. The champion sponsor, Wells Fargo. Communication sponsor, Comcast Business. Employee benefit sponsor, My Benefit Advisor. Women's health sponsor, Mainline Health. Diamond sponsor, B101.1. Women Helping Women sponsor, Fidelity Investments. And education sponsor, St. Joseph's University.
And now our platinum sponsor, Stradley, Ronan, Stevens, and Young.
Hi guys, it's Phil Tafro from the Jen and Bill Show on Philly's B101.1. Thank you so much for listening to us every morning. And right now, I'd like to thank the gold sponsors of today's program.
1847 Financial, Closets by Design, Enterprise Holdings and Fleet Management, First Trust Bank, Mainline Today, Montgomery County Community College, MRS Audio Visual, TechWise Group, UGI AmeriGas, United Healthcare, Univest Corporation, and Vertex. Silver sponsors, Aqua, an essential utilities company, CSL Behring, Ernst & Young, The Giant Company, Pico, Pictures by Todd Photography, Seasons 52, Suburban Square, Villanova College of Professional Studies, and WSFS Bank.
Thank you. Yay, big applause. And we also, of course, want to thank Brinker Simpson for stepping up today as an additional event sponsor of today's program, along with BrainTrust. These companies demonstrate a commitment to greater gender equity and diversity. Please support these businesses whenever possible. The Mainline Chamber staff is prepared to continue working hard to bring people together for valuable connections and content on multiple fronts. Please visit our website at mlcc.org and sign up for our emails to stay informed. Our next SPW event will be a journey to the boardroom on Wednesday, July 21st, in partnership with the Forum of Executive Women and Drexel University Directors Academy for a panel discussion that will enlighten attendees on the value of nonprofit board service at the highest levels while lifting the veil on the lucrative world of compensated board opportunities. Our esteemed panel will be discussing the pathways to evaluating and securing a board seat at that event. You can register now at spwmainline.com. You can continue to help us serve you by communicating with our staff, taking our surveys, and by interacting with us and others on social media using our hashtags, hashtag MLCC and hashtag SPWMainline. Thank you again for your support. Now, I'd like to review some housekeeping items for today. There's a chat and a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Please remember to submit your questions in the Q&A function as to not be lost in the chat function when it's time to get to them. You can put your contact information in the chat function to connect with one another. You can save that chat at any point in the webinar by clicking the three little dots at the bottom of the corner and hitting save. I recommend that you save the chat after, toward the end of the session, so that you have all of that content. And Sherry will be answering questions for about 10 minutes after the event today. So please make sure you're submitting those Q&As whenever you have them. And you can also raise your hand virtually at the end, and I can allow you to speak. Your video will not be on, but you can either raise your hand to chat if you know how to use that function, or just submit it to that box at the bottom. In order to continue our efforts to connect individuals with one another through networking today, we will be sending the attendee list with a list of all the attendees and information of how you can identify individuals to connect with. And you will also receive a copy of the recording, which will be listed on spwmainline.com. We will also host breakout sessions today to continue the conversation with moderators in each room. So thank you to those volunteers for helping with that. And each attendee will have the opportunity to introduce themselves and their company, and then the moderator will lead the conversation with a proposed question. The link for the meeting rooms will be provided in the chat function now and at the end of the formal program today. I would save that meeting link if you have it right now, or we're also going to be sending an email right now with the link, so that if you prefer to find it via email, you will have it there. And our team member, Pal Hansons, will stay to help others after the event as well. I'd like to welcome and thank you, Sherry, for being our featured speaker today. You came highly recommended for one of our member companies, of course, and I am looking forward to reading Lunch with Lucy, so congratulations on your first book. And I encourage our attendees to check that out if they're interested in learning more after today's program. Giving back to the nonprofit community is a big part of the SPW mission. In just over a decade, SPW has awarded over $80,000 to local nonprofits. We are thrilled that in addition to being our communication sponsor, Comcast Business has joined us in this mission in being the community giving sponsor, and we'll give a $1,000 check to each nonprofit at our trademark events this year. Family Support Line is that featured nonprofit today. So thank you to Executive Director Sarah Gibbons for being here with us today to share more about that important work. At SPW, we are proud to partner with so many companies that live our mission and vision. Brinker Simpson is one of those partners. It's my pleasure to introduce founder and managing partner, Bob Simpson, to today's program. It just so happens that Bob was recently honored at Family Support Line's Guardian Awards last week. We love seeing members supporting one another. So congratulations again, Bob, and welcome.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks to the Chamber for allowing us to talk about Family Support Line and to be a part of the SPW event today. Brinker Simpson, the CPA firm located in Springfield, a regional firm, was named in 2019 as the best CPA firm to work for women in the state of Pennsylvania. That's an honor that we take very seriously. And we do have, I think we're close to 70% women in our firm at this time. So we enjoy SPW and the value that they bring, not only to our firm, but to the business community altogether. It is my honor today to introduce the featured nonprofit Family Support Line. Family Support Line's core mission is to advance the prevention and treatment of child sexual abuse. To fulfill this mission, they provide a 360-degree approach to preventing and treating the abuse by offering prevention education, specialized therapy, forensic interviews, case management, coordinating the efforts of about 60 county agencies to support children who have been sexually abused. They help children and families get the help they need to be safe, heal, break the cycle of abuse, and to thrive. And they also ensure that the professionals who work with the children and the families have the support, training, and resources they need to recognize and respond to the allegations of abuse, as well as meet the needs of the children and families affected by sexual abuse. Such a severe mission, and if you're not familiar with the group, Brinker Simpson has supported them for years, and we enjoy supporting them. They do this with a style and flair that you would not think that is the mission of this group. A fun group to be in. Anybody who's available October 1st needs to go to their Bids for Kids annual fundraisers, which is just hands down one of the best not-for-profit events, fundraising that you can go to at any time during the year. And it's good to be back in person with them. So it is my honor and pleasure to welcome Executive Director Sarah Gibbons. And Sarah will explain to you more of the mission of Family Support Line and what the impact they have had in our region. It's all yours, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's a pleasure to have you as such a great supporter of our organization. And as Bob mentioned, we've been around 35 years, but a lot of people in Delaware County have not heard who we are or even beyond Delaware County. And that's often because we hear the stories nobody wants to hear. And we serve children that are the most vulnerable. COVID has really impacted children in our region, but also, and more importantly, I think, are the children that have not been able to separate from their abusers. They were stuck in isolation. They did not have the opportunity to disclose what was happening to them during COVID because they were not near mandated reporters. And there's a lot of work we had to do to pivot to make sure that we could get those children the help and services that they needed. So just to give you an example of what has happened in the last year during COVID, we have actually seen a large increase in child sexual abuse cases. We saw a 20% increase in cases since the last half of 2020 compared to the same time frame in 2019. In January, we saw a very stark increase of 46% in services compared to the same month in 2020. And overall, we've seen a 20% increase, which is a big number for counties such as ours. We are seeing really sad cases of child sexual abuse with multiple sibling groups that have, again, been in the home with their abuser without any kind of relief. We've also seen an increase in severe physical abuse cases and children that have been witnesses to crime. Also, as a result of COVID, we have seen the child exploitation on the internet skyrocket. With many adults unemployed or working remotely, the demand for inappropriate child imagery has increased. Unfortunately, at any given time, there are over 500,000 child predators online, engaging in conversations with children who are spending more time unsupervised online. So let that sink in, 500,000 child predators at any given time. Lots of people think that their children are safe if they're sitting next to them. But unfortunately, a lot of predators, that's how they initially engage with their victims. I want to thank Comcast and the Mainline Chamber of Commerce for their honoring us and recognizing us for the nonprofit. And we really, really appreciate all of your support. Thank you.
Sarah and Family Support Line at Comcast Business, it is our shared commitment to support and give back to local organizations like yours that are making a difference. In appreciation for all that you do, it is my honor to present you with this $1,000 check from Comcast Business.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barry Levin, and I am the Regional Sales Director for Comcast Business here in the Greater Philadelphia region. Comcast Business is proud to be the official communication sponsor for SPW, and we're grateful for this opportunity to speak to you all here today. At Comcast Business, we are all about powering possibilities through our suite of advanced communication solutions. These offerings help our business customers stay connected to the internet, to data centers, to customers, to suppliers, and to a remote workforce. So when connectivity matters, you can count on us. If you have any business needs, please don't hesitate to reach out, as we have had great success assisting SPW members with their business needs. Through our partnership with SPW, we truly have been able to connect with the local community through their events, networking, and overall engagement. And while our partnership has been long and fruitful for the past 8 years, the most rewarding part for us has been the opportunity to give back to a few very deserving nonprofit organizations this year, like the featured one today, Family Support Line. We want to thank SPW for this great opportunity, including the opportunity to introduce today's fantastic speaker to the program. Stewart Deutschmann is a serial entrepreneur, author, and passionate advocate for entrepreneurship. In 2019, Sherry founded BrainTrust, a company dedicated to helping women entrepreneurs grow their businesses to $1 million in annual revenue and beyond. Prior to founding BrainTrust, Sherry was also founder and CEO of LetterLogic, Inc., a company she grew to $40 million and sold in 2016. LetterLogic was named an Inc. 5000 company, fastest growing privately held businesses in the US for 10 consecutive years. Sherry attributes the success of LetterLogic to its unique culture in which the needs of the employees came before those of the customer or shareholder. Featured in the New York Times, Forbes Magazine, Business Leaders, Inc. Magazine, Fast Company, and more for her unconventional work culture and success, Sherry was also honored by President Barack Obama as a White House Champion of Change in 2016. Sherry's Lunch with Lucy, Maximize Profits by Investing in Your People is out now. Today, we are thrilled to have her here with us. And now, please welcome Sherry.
Thank you, Barry. And thank you, everyone. It's just a joy to be with you today. I wish I was with you in person, and hopefully we'll get that chance at some point. This jar holds 100 pennies, and I am using it to represent 100% of the 13 million women business owners in the U.S. So of these 13 million women business owners, how many of us do you think ever get to the $1 million in annual revenue mark? Well, I'm going to show you. I only have to remove 2 pennies because less than 2% of us ever make it. Why? First, why does $1 million matter? Because at $1 million, you are beginning to create generational wealth, in generational poverty. You really begin to get some influence. You're better able to attract investors. So getting to the $1 million mark is really important. Why don't more of us make it? Well, sometimes it's, systemic issues, and sometimes it's just us. Yeah, there are problems with access to capital, access to networks, access to markets, and sometimes it's because of us. Sometimes because we have said yes to so many things and so many of the wrong things that we don't have the opportunity to say yes to the right things when the right things come along. So, Nicole, I would like to see if you could put that first polling question out there for us. I just want to get a feel for the audience and to figure out, when was the last time you said yes to something you knew you should say no to, or that you wanted to say no to? So if you can just answer that first question there, and I'm gonna figure out where we are and how much like me you are. Great. So Nicole, can you let me know when we have a majority vote there? Okay, good. Oh my goodness, love seeing this. A lot of you are saying already at least once today. That's how we roll. So thank you for that, Nicole. I guess y'all can see.
Can you see it, Sherry?
I can see.
Okay, good.
I can see it continuing to grow, that there's several at least once today and several in the last day. And about 18 of 19 now have said at least once in the last week. And there's just one of us that has said, I'm good at no. And it's been a while since they put themselves in that position. Well, if you don't remember anything else I share with you today, I would hope that you can remember this. In fact, write it down. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful business people of our generation, said this: the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. And yet, you and I are stuck saying yes to too many things. We're saying yes to the wrong customers. We're saying yes when customers ask us to reduce our prices, and yet want us to expand the work that we're doing for them. We say yes when bosses pile more and more and more projects on us without giving us greater resources. We say yes to being on boards and nonprofits and just helping out in the community when we aren't really equipped to do that at this point in our lives. So all of those yeses that we're giving all the time are leading us to be resentful, ineffective, inefficient, and more importantly, it's keeping us from being successful. It's keeping us trapped in this jar if you're a business owner. Why do we do it? Why do we say yes when we want to say no? I'll tell you why I've done it. I think the most common reason I do it is guilt. I have been enormously successful financially, and there are millions of people who've worked harder than me and that are smarter than me and that will never have that level of success. And I hate that. And so I feel guilty about it. And I say yes to too many people that, want meetings with me, want me to mentor them, want, just a coffee with me. And it kills me sometimes. Sometimes I've said yes out of a fear. Just like you, I want to be liked. I want to be respected. I want to be included. I want to be asked again. And I say yes because I'm afraid that if I say no, people won't like me and won't respect me and won't include me. Sometimes I have said yes out of FOMO, that fear of missing out. And I've done this multiple times when it comes to marketing events, where I'm invited to an event that I know is a waste of time. And I delude myself into thinking, oh, this one time might be a good use of my time. And it's not. But that fear of missing out keeps me going anyway. I can also blame my mama, because my mom was the person who taught me, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And so I have deluded myself into thinking I'm the only person who can do this, or the only person who can do it the way I should do it. And so I take on things that I shouldn't do. And I don't know about you, but in the South, it's just nice to say yes and to try to help everybody. But it really traps us and keeps us from being as successful as we could be. So Nicole, I don't know if you have access to those questions that you can put up right now. Again, that second tier of questions about why you've said yes when you wanted to say no, and that maybe we can get to see how much like me you are in your responses to that question. So yep, a lot of you are saying yes out of guilt, and that FOMO is getting several of you. Also the need to be liked and respected and thinking that it's selfish. And look, a lot of you trapped in that thinking that nobody can do it like you can. Wow. So we're a lot alike, you and me, because I've suffered from all these things. And yet I will tell you that all of these myths, they're really myths that we've told ourselves, because the truth is, and I hope I demonstrate this to you later today, is that people won't like you less or respect you less for saying no. They will respect you more. It won't burn bridges. It opens better bridges for you. It's not that you won't be included. You'll be included in more things and better things, things that are better for you and better for your organization. And that whole myth we tell ourselves about nobody can do it like we can, we're wrong. They won't do it exactly like we would do it, but it might be just as good or even better. I will tell you for a certainty that the most pivotal moments in my life came from no's, not from yeses, because the no's that I gave put me in a position to say yes to the right things. And so I want to share a few minutes of my story with you so that you can understand how impactful those no's were. So I grew up in the North Carolina mountains, as my family were all Jehovah's Witnesses. So I didn't have anything beyond a high school education. And I would say that no really defined my life. As a single mom, a newly divorced, I decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee to be a star. I was a little nuts, but I had no money, no talent, no skills. In fact, the only thing that I had ever done to earn money until that time was scrubbing toilets. I was a really good toilet scrubber, still am. And I had no assets. The only thing that I owned of dubious value was a Volkswagen Rabbit diesel that had, I bought her for $1. And she had rolled off a mountain and she was all dented and rusty and just the ugliest car you've ever seen. But I got her for $1, and a lot of people told me I got ripped off, which I'll tell you a little more about later. But I was really grateful to her for getting me to Nashville. Now, I might not have had an education, but I had good common sense, and I realized that that car wasn't going to last much longer. And I had heard that car dealerships would hire you to sell without an education and without any leadership training. And this is really critical, they would give you a free car to drive, a brand new car to drive. So I just marched right down to the first car dealership and went in and asked for a job. And the man said, your timing is really good, because we were just thinking about adding some women to the sales force. But he said, tell me, what do you know about cars? And I had to admit that I didn't know anything about cars. And he said, well, what do you drive? And I had to point out the window to my beat up old car. He just shook his head and he said, listen, girl, this is a tough business, long hours and lots of rejection. Can you handle rejection? And I said, yes, sir, I can. And he said, how do I know that? And I said, well, I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on doors since I was about that high. And he burst out laughing and he said, okay, you got the job on one condition. Yes, sir. What? And he said, promise me you will never park that piece of shit car on this driveway again. I was like, no, sir, I won't. So pretty soon after that, I got a brand new car to drive. I should have said no, but I started dating my boss when he asked me, and you know how that worked out. So I ended up having to leave, which was a good thing. But those first couple of years in Nashville were brutal. He's right, it was a tough business. And I had a really hard time making ends meet. So there were times when I couldn't afford electricity and the daycare bill. And so my daughter and I lived without electricity. And there was the time when she got cut on the playground, and I cleaned the wound as best I could, but I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have insurance. I had no money. I had no family in town to borrow money from. And so I waited almost too long to go to the doctor. I went to the emergency room, and there the doctor told me that if I had waited longer, that she would have lost her leg or even her life, because she had a pretty serious staph infection. But those hard times really, I guess you'd say, informed the kind of leader I was to become later, and really created in me an empathy that has really served me well as a leader. But I did end up working in sales, and it turns out that Jehovah's Witness background was really good for sales too, and I did really well. In fact, in no time at all, I owned a home. And then I was buying houses and flipping houses as a hobby. And I went from that beat up old Volkswagen to driving a Jaguar. I was doing fine until my company was acquired. And the new owners just didn't seem to care about the people. And so we started making lots of mistakes. In fact, to me, it felt like Murphy's Law descended upon us, and anything that we could do wrong, we were doing wrong. And I stepped back to figure out why we were making so many mistakes, because it was really impacting my income. I was a straight commission sales rep, and we started losing customers. And I realized that what was wrong was that my coworkers didn't care, and that the reason they didn't care is because nobody cared about them, and they knew it. It was like an epiphany. And so I went to my boss, this really smart guy with an MBA from Vanderbilt. And I said, hey, I want to talk to you about the employee morale and ways that I think that if we could fix that, we could fix our customer service problem. Do you think he cared what I thought? No. He just patted my hand and said, why don't you just go sell something? You don't know anything about business. Well, I was hurt and I was angry. And I said the first critical no of my professional career. And I told him, no, I'm not going to add any more customers to this broken company. And I left. I quit. He was right. that I didn't know much about business. I'd never even read a business plan, much less written one. But I got some books and I read and I created a business plan that was very unique, very different. And I set up a shop in my basement competing with him. And I went to several people in town to borrow money. The bank had already told me no. And so I went to several different people who had seen what I had done for his company. And I asked for $350,000 investment to help me start the company. Well, believe it or not, all of them said yes, which is like an entrepreneur's dream, right? And yet none of them would allow me to run the company the way I thought a company should be run. And so in the most important no of my life, I said no to all those people offering me money. I cashed in my 401k. I had a week-long yard sale and sold all my belongings. I went down to Goodwill and got a couple of those little short filing cabinets and got an old door in my basement, pulled it across those filing cabinets. I'd made myself a desk, and I started my business there, competing with him with my own very unique business model, which was kind of following Herb Kelleher and the way he started Southwest Airlines, with my belief that my job was to take care of the employees, and that if I took care of them, they would be able to focus and take care of the customer. So toward that end, I had crazy benefits from day one. From day one, I paid a real fair living wage. From day one, I paid for 100% of everybody's medical, dental, disability, and life insurance. I helped them buy their first homes with a gift for the down payment or closing costs on their first home purchase. I let them bring their kids and their pets to work. If they wanted to start a business, I helped them start the business and invested in their business. And importantly, and the most important thing really, and the best business idea I ever had in my entire life, and I sure hope y'all have me back to talk about this someday. I had a profit share plan that made us more profitable. Every month we took 10% of the profit and we split it evenly so that our janitor got exactly the same thing our CFO got. And that was a game changer. That is, you can read a lot about in Lunch with Lucy and how pivotal that was to our success. Well, we grew like a weed. And before you knew it, we were in the second year up to $2 million in revenue, and I ran out of money. Went back to the bank. They said no. That's what happens when you're a woman in business. They said no. But they took me to a man in town who agreed to invest. And this man had taken 42 companies public, 17 on the New York Stock Exchange. And he didn't ask me for majority ownership like those other people had done. He just wanted 25%. And he gave me the money that I needed. He was the ideal partner for me, the ideal investor. The interesting thing was, and I hope you get this point, is if I had said yes to any of those other people offering me money, I would not have been able to say yes to him, the perfect partner, a partner that was with me for years up until I sold the company in 2016. The results of me doing it my way and from telling those people no was that my company grew to $40 million. And it's important to note that it was $40 million with no debt. We didn't owe a penny to anybody. We just paid cash for everything. And our culture that I've talked to you a little bit about got us lots of attention. It's what got us in the New York Times and brought us to the attention of the president. And it became, our culture really gave me a megaphone and gave me the ability to help a whole lot more people and to influence a lot of other business owners to change their model and to work more on the sake of the employees. But none of that would have happened. I never would have had those opportunities if I hadn't said no to those first investors. And this is a common mistake that entrepreneurs make, is saying yes to whoever's got money without realizing the strings that are attached to that money. If you're like me and you're a business owner, when I first started out, man, if you could hold a pen and sign your name, I'll let you be a customer. But it wasn't too long before I realized that all customers are not created equal. And I realized the power of being able to say no to a customer and how pivotal that was. So that's especially true with big customers. But I want to tell you 3 stories of when I said no to customers and how it affected our relationship. First is the story of Jerry. He and I were paired together for a golf tournament. And I knew who he was. So I kind of freaked out when they told me I was playing golf with him, because he was the founder and CEO of a big software company. And we didn't even talk about our business at all during our golf tournament. Instead, we just talked about our families, and we built a bond. We found out that both of us were raising our granddaughters, and so we were like that pretty quickly. So, but I wasn't surprised when a couple of weeks later he called me and said, I would like to move my business to you. And he said, your competitor is terrible. And he told me all the things that my competitor was doing wrong. So I said, great, send me a test file and we'll see what we can do. Well, once we looked at the test file, we realized that the vendor wasn't the problem. It was the data. And so I had to call him back and say, no, we can't take your business on because your data won't work well in our system. He was a little indignant and said, well, how would you want the data? And so I told him. 2 weeks later, he called and said, we changed the data. When do you want the business? And he told me that if I had said yes, he had worried that my company was not sophisticated enough and not developed enough to take his business on. But he said, me telling him no and giving him such a crystal reason for why assured him that we absolutely were ready for his business. And that's how I got one of our top 5 biggest customers ever, by saying no. Do you think he respected me less? No, he respected me more, and we are friends to this day. We have breakfast together regularly. The other story is of Neil, a customer who had been with me for about 5 years when he called me one day angry because he said, I just found out y'all are the most expensive in the nation. And I said, yes, we are. And he said, but we're friends. You know, you should give me a discount. And I told him, no, I can't give you a discount because all these things that we do for you is what makes you special. And it's it's why you're growing the way you're growing. And I'll help you find a less expensive vendor, but I will not reduce your rate. His response, he said he had already decided that if I had agreed to reduce his rate, he was going to fire me. And I was like, why? Why would you do that? And he said, because it would have told me that you had been cheating me for 5 years. And my saying no to him solidified our relationship in a way that me reducing his rate never could have done. And finally, the best story was with our biggest customer. Now, I don't know who's in the audience today, but some of you are those big customers and some of you are the small businesses. And on both sides, you know what I'm talking about, that the big customers really kind of dictate what we do. Y'all say jump and we say how high. Well, I was doing that with my biggest customer until I realized we weren't making any money on them. And everything we did for them was custom for them. And it was just untenable. And I had met with them several times to talk about it, and they just wouldn't hear it. So I did the only thing I could do. I sent them a certified letter of cancellation. I was in the airport in Chicago, heading back to Nashville, just getting on the plane when the CEO got the letter and called me, mad as a hornet. And why? You cannot fire us. And I said, I have to. We don't make money on you, and y'all make it very difficult for us. And it's just a good business decision, and I'll help you find someone else. And he said, well, let's talk about it. And I said, I can't. I'm just boarding a plane and I have to shut my phone off now. So the next morning I walk into my office, and who was sitting there? This man and his entire team had gotten up at 4 a.m. and done the 5-hour drive to Nashville, Tennessee. And he said, we are not leaving here until we've solved this problem. And so it was several hours later with lots of arguing and a little shouting. and some tough negotiations that I was able to keep this client, have them move our way when it came to how to do things, and got them to give us a really big price increase. And that's how our biggest customer became our most profitable customer, because I stood up for myself and I stood up for the company and I said no. Do you think that he respected me less? No, he respected me more. It put us on the same plane. We were peers at that moment, and peers now. We are still friends. Something that happened only because I said no and stood up for us. So don't be afraid to say no to customers. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it. If you're like me, you're getting constant offers to ask you to serve on nonprofit boards and committees, and then paid boards. And those are really important opportunities because they do help us expand our reach and become more influential. But there's the right time for it and there's a wrong time for it. I'll never forget the first time I was asked to be on a bank board as a paid board member. And I didn't realize it, but bank boards pay you a lot of money. And so I accepted it and I was giddy. And I called the investor that invested in the company to tell him that I was on this bank board. And I thought he would be all proud of me. And he wasn't. He said, "Why in the world are you going to spend your time helping that bank grow their business instead of growing our business?" That was pretty powerful. And, you know, he went on to teach me that when you are joining boards and helping and serving on committees, what you're saying is that their agenda is more important than yours. Is that true? Maybe it is, but just know that there is a time and a place to do those things. And maybe as you're growing a business, right now is not the right time. When it comes to trying to determine a yes or no, how do you decide? How do you know what's a yes or a no? Well, what I've written down and govern myself and my yeses are, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? What am I passionate about? What matters to me? And at this phase of my life, it's helping women grow their businesses so they can experience what I experienced. And so if anybody asks me for anything that's outside of that, that's an easy no. Another way is whether or not something's a hell yeah. So if somebody asks you to do something and there's no hesitation, you know, yes, I want to do it. That's great. But still, if you're like me and you're up to here with commitments, every time you say yes to something, you're going to have to back off of something you've already committed to. What's it going to be? What's going to suffer? Is it your workout time? Is it time with family? Is it that other nonprofit you've given your time to? You really got to give that some serious consideration. The best analogy I have for how to work through this is my husband. I buy him a new shirt. He admires it, tries it on, and then I know what he's going to do. He goes straight to his closet and he takes a shirt out to give to Goodwill. Because in his mind, he only has room for so much shirts in his life. And if he gets a new one, one's got to go. So every time somebody asks you to do something, something's got to give. What's it going to be? Make sure that you're prepared to give up something. And don't be afraid to ask about how what you're agreeing to is going to help you and help your mission and purpose. One thing that has been really important for me is asking people when they ask for my time to ask for more information, ask for an agenda, ask for a pro forma, a budget, a blueprint, something that lets me know more about what I'm getting myself into. And then when it's time to say no, when I've determined that I am going to say no to something, remember this: no is a complete sentence. The more information you give and the more excuses you give, the more likely it is that you will be suckered back into doing that thing that you just said no to. So all you have to do is say no. Thank you. My plate is full right now. But if this is an organization with whom you don't want to burn bridges, the things you can do are this: say, I love what you're doing. I care about your organization, but I can't help right now. However, one thing I can do for you is introduce you to Susan Wilson. She loves your organization. She talks about it all the time. She has the time and the money to serve on this committee. Please let me introduce you to her. That's one way. The other thing you can do is say, I thank you for this. Thank you for asking me. I love what you're doing. I can't help you in that way, but I can help you financially. Should I go online to donate right now, or do you have time for me to write a check? Both those things allow you to let them know you care and that you want to keep that avenue open, but that you're doing all you can do. And you know what happens when you say no in that way? I've had several times when I've given those no's, people have said to me, oh, I wish I could do what you just did. I need to learn from you. It's really important just to make sure that you don't burn the bridges just by being gracious and then connecting them to other resources. One way that I did that was keeping a short list of other women business owners in town. So if business came my way that wasn't right for me, I could refer business to them. Opportunities to receive awards, I've had enough. So when someone asks me to nominate me for an award, I say no, and I point them to another woman who needs that recognition. And when they ask for people to serve on committees or boards, I funnel them to women who need that opportunity and who are ready to have the time and can make the commitment to take care of the commitment. The best way I know to damage your reputation is to say yes to something and then do a poor job, or to say yes and then wait to the last minute and realize you can't do it and then to back out. That will damage your reputation. In closing, I want to share with you a physical exercise that I think will help you get up to speed on this saying no thing. So if you will just look right at your screen, look at me, and sit up straight in your chair and turn your head over to your right shoulder and now to your left and back to the right and back to the left, right, left. See, saying no is easy. So I want you to start today with us and make yourself a no snowball. Start saying no to all those little things, like somebody saying, can I just have 5 minutes, or can we have a cup of coffee? Say no to all those little things and you'll have more and more space for yourself to say yes to better things. Remember that saying no allows other people to say yes. That is not selfish. And saying no allows you the opportunity to say yes to things that are better aligned with your mission, vision, values, and purpose in life. And importantly, it's going to get you out of this jar. Just say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. That was amazing. Really brilliant. I love a lot of the stuff you shared. I was writing it all down, so I will definitely summarize for our group. We have about 5 to 7 minutes to chat here with you before we go into breakout rooms. So I would encourage everyone that has a question that would like to raise their hand and talk. I can allow you to talk, or if you'd like, you can submit your question to the Q&A box now. But thank you so much for that presentation. We really appreciate it. So I'm waiting to see if any questions are coming in. I usually write in the chat, submit your questions now. I kind of dropped the ball on that, sorry. I did see some people raising their hands earlier today, and I wasn't sure if they were just checking the feature out or if they wanted to talk. So if you wanted to talk, please raise your hand now or just submit, like I said, the questions to the Q&A box.
Share a story with you. My friend Ginger was trying to get her speaking gig business up. And everybody that wanted her to speak wanted her to do it for free. And she did that for a while. And finally, she said no. And right after she said no, she got an invitation to speak in Hawaii, all expenses paid. Plus, they didn't bat an eye at her $10,000 speaking fee. And it was at exactly the same time of a gig that she had just, a free gig that she had just said no to. If she had accepted that one gig, she would not have been able to accept the other. Hawaii.
I need that Hawaii gig. we have 2 questions so far. So if you have said yes, and now you know you need to say no, how do you gracefully bow out without hurting your reputation?
Great question. I've done it. In fact, that bank board that I was on, after a year and a half, I realized that it wasn't the best use of my time. And I met with the CEO face to face and said, I have made a mistake here. And I know I made a commitment to you for 3 years and I cannot fulfill that commitment. I need to focus on my business at this point. And so directness, don't do it in an email, face to face if possible. And people understand and respect it because they've been in the same situation themselves.
Okay, we have two more questions now again. Can you talk about how to say no to your boss or your coworkers? We all want to be helpful and reliable team players.
Well, I remember a young woman that worked for me, Elizabeth, and I threw another project on her, and she came to my office and said, which one of these projects do you care about? And I said, all of them. And she said, well, I can't do all of them. So each of one of these are going to take this much time. So I'm going to drop one. Which one should it be? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I think just being direct with your boss, what happens with women often is we say yes, and we keep saying yes and yes and yes. And then the plum assignment comes along and the boss doesn't give it to us because they know they've got us loaded to here. And guess who they give it to? A man. Because men are much better at saying no, and they have more space and time to say yes to the good things. So telling your boss, I already have this much on my plate, and if you want me to do a really good job of those, I have to say no. A good boss will respect that.
Great. And one more question. More times I run into problems committing to social engagements, and I'm overbooked and overwhelmed that I do not want to do anything. What is your solution to this? People get mad if you say no.
Boy, I am in exactly where you are, and I'm an introvert, so it's even worse. It is just telling them that I'm overcommitted right now, and I would not be a good dinner guest in less set of time. What I have started doing is agreeing to all those people who want to see me or want to see them all at once. So invite them all over for cocktails, and it's a 5 to 7, and I'm done with it. And then I see everybody all together, which is the reason I started BrainTrust. I had all these young women who wanted me to mentor them, and I couldn't. So I brought them all together, and they mentor and help each other, which turned out to be a great thing. And then I just get to watch them succeed.
Wonderful. Well, I don't see any more questions, and we're about to go into the meeting rooms and have dialogue with one another. So that's wonderful. So thank you again, Sherry. Once again, your book is Lunch with Lucy, right? Is there anywhere specific you want to share with them? I know I see it behind you.
There
it is.
It has just won a national business award for a business book. And it's about why your company is going to be more profitable if you take care of your people.
Congratulations. We love that. We're big on company culture here at the Mainline Chamber as well. So thank you very much for your presentation today. We'll